enlightenment, awakening. What is your understanding of what is enlightenment, what is awakening?
There is two parts. But everything is related to our mind. Enlightenment, liberation, both are related to our mind. Because Atma, soul, there is no problem in the Atma, there is no problem in the soul. So the problem, the salvation, everything is only in the mind. So in the mind is made up of two parts. One is consciousness, and the other one is the intellect. Combination of both consciousness and intellect joins together as mind. There is no separate intellect, there is no separate consciousness. Both are joined.
So intellect, everybody knows, but what do you mean when you say consciousness?
Consciousness is the basic energy, basic feeling, all our feeling, what we feel feeling is different from intellect is only the imagination. Imagination is only an intellectual matter. But feeling is a conscious matter. For example, I touch here, I feel. But the imagination we cannot, if you imagine, I cannot show your imagination. If I touch you, you can feel. But I cannot make you, I cannot make you imagine like something. I cannot give you your imagination, give some imagination.
So
feelings is this consciousness.
Consciousness.
And
if I see some tree and I feel love to the tree, this is consciousness.
This is consciousness. If you feel anything through your nervous system, that is consciousness.
What about thought?
What about?
Thinking.
Thinking, thought is only imagination. We mix our knowledge and everything, we define through some language and everything. That is imagination and intellect.
So, all kinds of thoughts, every thought is intellect? Or are there some kinds of thought that are intellect, other kind of thought which are part of consciousness?
But when you have a thought, you feel you are having thought. So that you feel you are having thought. The feeling that you are having thought is consciousness. But the message conveyed through our thought is the imaginary part, intellect part. So even the thought itself has the dual nature, conscious nature and intellect nature. So, but the main thing of our consciousness is always self-contained. There is no oscillation, there is no waves in our consciousness. For example, we have our body and the body is full of consciousness. But we cannot know our body itself. Even though it is we are conscious of our body, we cannot feel we are having body. Consciousness is like that. But if you touch here, you can know the feeling of through your feeling, by our touch here, we know the hand. Otherwise, you cannot know you cannot feel the hand. If you touch here, you can feel the leg. Otherwise, you cannot feel the leg. So, in this way, the consciousness in itself is silent, without any expression. So, when we have some expression in our consciousness, that alone we can feel. So, all we know is only the expression of our consciousness. By consciousness itself is silent. There is no waves, there is no wavering in this consciousness. But we feel something, each and every moment we feel something. The moment we feel something is the expression, the waves of consciousness. Even though it is the waves of consciousness, we can name it as consciousness. The waves can be considered as a consciousness. Even though the deeper sense of the consciousness is not the wave, but at the same time we can understand the wave itself is a consciousness. We can name it as consciousness. But the intellect is imaginary part. So, the enlightenment is only in the intellectual level. It is only when the intellect can know this is something, this is not something. And it classifies, it arranges things, it evaluates things. All this belong to the intellect part. So, the intellect part alone deals with the enlightenment. Enlightenment belong to the intellect part. But the feeling part is the liberated part. The liberated, the what we call liberation, mukti, moksha, everything is in the conscious part. The conscious part, we cannot have control over the conscious part. It happens on its own. We may interfere. Our intellect may interfere with our consciousness. All our action may interfere with the consciousness. But the nature of our consciousness is it has on its own, it will function on its own. And we have no direct connection with our conscious level. We can deal anything only through our intellect. The intellect is the process. There we can work out. We can work out through intellect. We cannot work out through our consciousness. If you want to approach the consciousness, we have to choose the intellect part. We have to approach the consciousness through intellect part. We cannot directly go to the conscious level. It happens naturally. That is the liberation and all other things are related to the consciousness. And regarding to the consciousness, we have no power over to control, take into account of the consciousness. But our area, our limitation is limited only to the intellect level. So we have to work in the intellect level. We have to find our salvation in the intellect level. The intellect, we can use our intellect to the external circumstances. Without the intellect, we cannot do anything externally. Whatever we can do only through our intellect. But the intellect assumes more responsibility to deal with the consciousness itself. But it is impossible. If it decides to interfere with the consciousness, it makes unnecessary disturbance to the consciousness. And it makes unnecessary waves in the consciousness. If it does not enter into the conscious level, the consciousness will have the natural flow. The natural flow is the innocent state of our mind. The consciousness is the innocent state of our mind. So only the intellect part is the cognitive part, the mathematical thing. The mathematical thing he has the area only in the external world. What we have to do, what we have to think, how we have to behave, all these things in the area of the intellect part. So the intellect part may function in the world with proper planning and proper thinking and everything. But it has no power over the innocent part or the conscious part. So the intellect part must understand, I have no power over the conscious part. This very understanding that I have no power over conscious part, the very understanding itself is known as enlightenment.
Someone comes and tells you, abuse you. So there is a feeling of hurt inside. Yes? So this feeling of hurt inside is consciousness or is it
the conscious will not, if the intellect is not there, the consciousness will not understand somebody is insulting me. Okay. So the intellect says, oh, somebody is hitting you. So the mechanism, it wants to do something and some deeper level of intellect part, some deeper level of our behavior, everything comes into our help and it makes some oscillation in the conscious level. And there we get the feeling of hurt. So we have to, then only we can do something in response to the feeling of hurt. Or does a response do something against the person who is making the hurt.
Let's say continue with this example. Someone was insulting you, hurt. And you are trying to avoid this hurt inside.
But everything is the duty of the intellect part. The intellect part always try to take control over the situation, take control over the feeling of hurt. So if the intellect part becomes silent and leave everything in the hands of the innocent part, the conscious part. The conscious part will settle down very soon, very quickly. But the intellect part will not make it solve the problem very soon. But the intellect part takes everything in the hand. So that is the problem continues. If to the possible extent it can work to the external thing. But if it does anything to solve the psychological problem, solve the conscious problem, it is waste of energy because it is not in the hands of the intellect. So the consciousness, whatever happens in the conscious level, it fades away within a fraction of a second. There cannot be a permanent waves in a water. If some waves forms in a water, it settles very soon. You need not try to settle the waves in the water. The very nature of the waves to settle down in the water is. We have to understand what we are happening. The problem is in the intellect part. We have to solve in the intellect part itself. But it will transform to our understanding will transform to the conscious level also. We need not worry about the transformation of conscious level. You are sure that we understand we have nothing to do with the conscious part. We have nothing to do with our innocent part. Then our work is over. We can use our intellect to the external situation, wherever we are placed, whatever situation we are facing. We can use our brain, we can use our mind, we can use our intellect to solve the situation, to have a good situation. We can form a good circumstances. That we have to work. But we have no work related to the consciousness. It is not under our control. But we think it is under our control. Then only we mistakenly try to solve the consciousness, try to have the consciousness without any waves. And if the waves are very good, sometimes we may have nice feeling, some blissful feeling, then the intellect part says, I must retain such kind of feeling. If it is some bad feeling, the intellect part says, I want to get away from the bad feeling. It has nothing to do with no feeling is. The feelings are not related to the intellect part. It is only the conscious part. He has no business over that. No.
Explain the difference between I am.
But the real self, that means the Atman, the real self, that is the basic energy that we cannot know. Even maybe the pure consciousness may be the Atman itself. But the very nature of the consciousness is unconsciousness itself. Because it has some waves. We can identify anything only through the waves, only through the expression of anything. So the pure consciousness in itself is unconscious. It is silent. There is no feeling of anything. But whatever we have the feeling, whatever we know something, it is only the expression of consciousness. So it is only our psychologically. We know only our psychological structure. Psychological feelings.
So, I or the part of me that I
But the real I is our consciousness. Because that is our experience, that is our conscious feeling, that is the real I, that is the real consciousness, that is the real I am. The real I am is always innocent, the real I am is always having some feeling, having some energy, having some consciousness. That is our real I. But it is always dynamic, it is not a static one, it is always just like moving a river. The river we can identify a river, so this is a river, but there is no still water there. It is a flowing water. In this way, our psychological structure, the real me is a ever-flowing river, ever-flowing I consciousness. But the intellect part also claims I am, but that is the artificial I am. The artificial I am is creating all the problem. But the real I am is our consciousness. The real I am is always innocent. There is no problem in our real I am. Even though it looks like some problem, the intellect I am is also telling I am having some problem. The consciousness will not say I am having a problem, I want to be free from problem. It is natural flow.
So the I am is supposed to take over and say I am the intellect. Who has the understanding that there will not be any interference? The intellect or
the intellect? Because the intellect has the problem, the intellect has to solve it. The intellect has to understand that I cannot do. The intellect has to understand the inability of the intellect. So the consciousness has no power. Consciousness is always silent. It is just like an innocent child. The innocent child may express many feelings, but it won't feel any guilty of its feeling. It won't feel any pride of its feeling. It may show different kind of feelings, but it always keeps itself innocent. So in this way, our consciousness keeps itself always innocent. It may behave in worst feeling, it may express worst feeling, it may behave, it may emanate some good feeling, but it always it never get any pride of some good feeling. It will not feel any guilty of its bad feeling. It is always pure and innocent like an innocent child.
Not having self-conscious, so not self-conscious.
Self-consciousness means there is no state like self-consciousness. We know only the expression. Without expression, there is no self-consciousness. Self-consciousness is always silence. No feeling, no.
And this expression is intellect?
Expression is only the conscious level. It is only the imagination. All our intellect is only imagination.
So can you say the consciousness will be the experience?
Yeah.
The basic experience?
Basic experience.
And intellect will be interpretation of
this? That is only the knowledge part. Intellect or the imaginary part.
Okay.
It defines something, naming something. Gives name, this is that, this is not this. So, and thereby they join hands. And thereby joining hands with the consciousness, it eliminates some good or bad feeling. That we call experience. Good experience, bad experience, fear, anger, whatever it is. That is the combination of the consciousness and the intellect. But the intellect give away its responsibility to deal with itself. Problem over. Because all our conscious problem goes away automatically. We need not clear it. Only the imaginary part alone assumes a responsibility to clear everything, get everything under our control. There is nothing to solve, nothing to deal. To understand myself. I have no business to deal with myself. You can deal with the world, but don't deal with yourself. That's the problem. You can have the capacity, you can have the imaginary world, you can have the intellect to deal with the world, but don't deal with yourself.
They say the world is you, it's just what I perceive to be the world is just a creation of myself. There is no world except...
Although you are not imagining that the world is existing outside, you have to accept. And we have to do the correct thing. For that, our intellect, our wisdom, everything is, we have to use our intelligence. There is no intelligence without the intellect. The intellect, if it is using to the external world, it can be called the intelligence. But if you are using your intellect against our mind, against our consciousness, it is foolishness and it is ignorance.
Because the intellect assumes that there is a separate me,
it assumes some separate consciousness. The intellect alone says, I am somebody, I am something, I have some responsibility. So all these things, but you may take the responsibility against the world, but don't take the responsibility against yourself. That is the problem.
Say that Ramana's way of inquiring, who am I, will be like the intellect inquiring or again, like questioning, doubting what is it really that I exist? Because it takes itself to exist as a separate individual. So would you say that this who am I will be the re-inquiring or redoubting this assumption?
If the intellect, whatever we are doing only through the intellect, if the intellect asks and question who am I, to understand the real nature of the intellect and consciousness, then it can find out. But instead of that, if you focus our attention to a particular point, so it is not an inquiry. It is just like in yoga. So placing our concentration upon a focusing point, and thereby we have some manolaya, and we can settle down with some experience. It will produce some experience of it. It will not give the understanding. But the understanding is different thing, and the meditation in a focusing point, and settle down in a focusing point and feel that I am something motionless. That is different. That is a yoga. And through yoga you can produce some good feeling, some blissful feeling. But all feeling will comes and goes. That is a different thing. But it will not solve the real problem. When you are having some blissful feeling or good feeling, you feel you are safe. But the feeling will go away from you very soon. And once again you will be in trouble. But in the other case, if the feeling will not go away from you, it will also give you more trouble.
My understanding of these two teachers, Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj, my understanding, if I combine it with what you said now, so Nisargadatta Maharaj would say focus on the I am, on this basic consciousness maybe. Just rest your awareness on this ground of your being, of what you sense, this I am, which is always there in your. It's the basic of this consciousness. Everything is built on this idea or on this feeling. So you would say so. This is my understanding of I am, and my understanding of Brahman, according to what you say, that the intellect will inquire itself, acquire the assumption that it exists, and we question that. Is it that true?
Only intellectual level alone we are questioning. If you are questioning in the intellectual level, then only we can find out an intellectual answer. Because the intellectual answer alone can solve your problem. Okay. Because all our problem is only in the intellectual level. There is no problem in the deeper level. But we think the problem is in the deeper level. There is no problem in the deeper level. Only everything is in the superficial level. So if you understand in the superficial level, it will work. But in the case of Nisargadatta Maharaj or anybody else, they were looking that, going deep into that, thereby they disregard the intellect part. So if you disregard the intellect part, that means you take everything into very, very easily. So indirectly they come to the same conclusion. So wherever it be, the salvation must be in the intellectual level, not in the basic, in the conscious level. But if you aim there is a salvation in the conscious level, we are opening the new avenue after avenue, but we will not reach the goal. So the salvation must be intellectual. If the intellect understands that I have nothing to have any kind of feeling, any kind of stage within ourselves, then the intellect becomes silent regarding to ourselves. If the intellect wants some good feeling within ourselves, a good consciousness within ourselves, then it is always trying to reach something.
Yeah, this is the intellect's role, you could say. It will always want to pursue good experience and avoid bad experience. So how can it get out of this circle?
We have to understand there is no such kind of thing. There is no good thing, there is no bad thing. Everything is just like a river, everything is flowing. There is no permanency. But when we understand that there is a permanent feeling, there is a permanent goal, then our intellect part is always trying. So everything is psychological. But there is no psychological standard to achieve. The intellect will be silent with regard to the psychological aspect.
The intellect thinks that there is a permanent state of bliss that he has to...
The intellect will assume like that. Then only it moves towards that.
Thinks this is liberation. And
liberation is not a still water, it is a moving water. It is just like in each and every moment it is new. So new feeling.
So liberation includes all the states, all the feeling, all the thoughts, everything.
Yes. So liberation is our natural state. It is not a created state. Very nature of our mind, or very nature of ourselves is in the liberated state.
It is not a state of silence or
not
like
that.
It is
a temporary experience. But temporary experience is not the real one.
It's including everything.
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 Nothing is excluded.
Nothing excluded. All your conscious experience is included in the liberation.
That is always silent.
Silence is a part of your consciousness. Silence is not the end. It is not only not the beginning, not the end. It's part of.
So there are emotions behind this silence.
Yeah, let it be. Everything, whatever is feeling, that is the consciousness. Without consciousness, nothing can be felt. So even if you feel silence, it is also a conscious feeling. Whatever if you have some other feeling instead of silence, it is also a feeling. If you felt, it is a feeling. It is a conscious expression. But the real consciousness will not have any feeling at all, even the silence itself.
So even silence is still experience.
No, silence is still experience. Because we define it, we can feel it, we can feel something.
Yeah.
If you feel something, if you feel anything, it is an experience.
It comes and goes.
It comes and goes.
So that's why
Even though it may be permanent, but don't worry about that. But all experience means moment by moment. We think it may be a constant one, but there is a gap. Everything it has some gap. For example, if you have a electric bulb, we think it is constantly illuminating, having illumination constantly, but within fraction of second, there are so many fluctuation is there. That can be counted only through some instrument, but we cannot visualize it. But there is some fluctuation each and every fraction of second. There are so many fluctuation in each seconds. Flickering is there.
So the idea that the intellect has that I can reach a certain permanent state is the source of suffering.
Suffering
for the intellect.
Yeah.
And the acceptance of whatever is coming up. This is liberation.
No, the intellect has not even the responsibility to accept. It has no business. No business. So suppose somebody is ringing the calling bell of our house, we have the responsibility to ask, who are you? Please come in. But if the calling bell is ringing on the other door, what is our responsibility? We have no responsibility. Intellect has no responsibility with regarding to consciousness. You may do anything to the external world, but not to the internal world. Want to do anything, do it in the externally, but don't do it internally.
So it's just the realization, the understanding of the intellect that he has no role to play.
No role to play.
In that psychological world.
Yeah. But if you move with the society and anything, naturally you will have some response, psychological response. But if you have no control over the psychological response, and you have to move along with your own response. You have no separate idea that I must shape this feeling, I must keep this feeling. That role we should not take. So if you do not have any role for ourselves, we have to move along with what is happening within ourselves. We have to move along with the happening itself.
So you have to give up all the ideas that you have about how you should be.
To be inside, psychologically. So there is no psychological standard.
So all the ideas, I should be like that, I should be a good man, I should never be angry, I should never feel that. All this should go. But
if it is necessary to live and adjust with the society, you have to work for that. But for the psychological standard, we need not do like that. If it is, if I am always blissful, if I should not have any fear for my own, I should not have any worry. That is the psychological standard for myself alone. But if it is related to the external thing, we can behave like that. We can have some adjustment with that. No expansion, only some waves. Some waves comes and settle in the water itself. In this way, all our feelings.
But when you look at the river in itself, because of all this experience, so feelings.
But it is a yoga process. But it happens like that. But we should not attach with that.
Yeah.
If you get attachment to that feeling and such kind of living, only the intellect part alone gets powerful. So it demands like that, I must be like that, I should not be like that. So thereby the intellect part alone gets powerful. So the intellect part must lose its power. That is the main thing. So if the intellect part loses its power, our total consciousness will be in the free flow like a river. So that is a natural state, that is a liberated state. You are in the liberated state, then you need not worry about anything. Because you can use your intelligence, you can use your intellect to the external things, whatever the situation you face, you can use your intellect part, you can use your intelligence right manner. But psychologically you have no standard. Everything is, you are just like a river.
Yeah, but intellect is something, but there is also wisdom.
But here what we are going to understand psychologically more than there is no deeper wisdom to understand anything.
I live the understanding out this level of feelings. So somehow thinking and all this.
But some yoga process, you may have some occult powers, so that you can know the future, past, anything. That is the different level of consciousness. That is through yoga process. But it has nothing to do with the liberation. That is a technical value. That is a technology.
Yeah.
You are using your brain, use your mind as a technical tool to deal with some feature or anything. That is a technological level. But in the freedom, freedom is not a technology. It is our natural state.
Okay.
In this freedom, maybe inherent wisdom that functions.
Inherent wisdom of what?
I don't know. Is there? or it's just the intellect that, let's say the intellect does not interfere anymore. Only according to what is needed to be done. Okay.
But anyhow, the salvation is only the intellectual. The intellectual alone has to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the wisdom for the understanding of liberation or anything, if you reduce it into the name of wisdom, it has to come into the intellectual level, not in the conscious level. Actually, there is no real classification between consciousness and intellect. They both are one.
Mm-hmm.
But for the sake of explanation and anything, we divide it into two, intellect part and conscious part. Actually, both are one, intermixed.
Try to say that when there is this understanding that don't interfere anymore, the intellect stop interfering because it sees it's the futility of interfering the psychological world. It's up there. He sees that he has no power, so he becomes still.
Not still, flowing.
Flowing. And this flowing has its own wisdom. He knows how to deal with life.
So wisdom is in the part of the intellect, not in the part of the...
Yes, but while the intellect is interfering, it's interfering also with the wisdom. So when it stops, and there is just functioning, so it knows how to deal with life better than if it was...
if it is in the war,
yes,
it will have some different kind of...
it will have war also outside. If it has war inside. So if it stops the war inside, then no war outside also.
But at the same time, some characterization, some vasanas may be there. It may come into being.
Yeah.
So in course of time, everything will be settled. But if we understand that we have no business inside, in the course of time, this wisdom will solve even the vasanas itself.
Yes.
Actually, we may have several vasanas, many vasanas we may have, but the vasanas will not disturb in the innocence. For example, you may look like you may see a child. The child may have several vasanas, but even though it has vasanas, it keeps innocence. In spite of the vasanas, it keeps innocent. The vasanas will not disturb the innocence. But only our intellect alone disturbs the innocence. Our intellect part enters, then all the problem comes. Not the vasanas. Vasanas will not create any problem.
So
So this
just
is,
disturbed in a way. So
the-
maybe we should go on like cows without intellect, and then nobody will.
but if you are
we are
liberated,
human beings.
if you are liberated, everything is over. You need not worry about the other thing.
I understand, but I say
Why in the first place
yeah.
it happened by in the first place, this assumption of the intellect.
So that is a natural process. You can understand the natural process and natural way of our mind. And if you understand correctly, and everything will be all right. Till the time of our real understanding, we have to go just like other people or just like other things. That is the nature of the universe. That is the nature of the world.
I try to understand all of the intellect. If we have intellect, it's in us all, in our life.
So the correct role of intellect is to use your intellect to the external situation, but not to the psychological.
Deal with the world.
But deal with the world.
Outside to understand.
Outside everything. You are living in a situation. You have the society. You have your children. You have the atmosphere. You have to use your brain. You have to use your intellect to the external situation. But don't try to use the same intellect against your psychological structure, against your psychological feeling, against your consciousness.
There is no division between intellect and consciousness.
Really, there is no division. When the intellect alone says everything, division, everything, non-division, everything is in the language of intellect. So the intellect has to divide everything. That it is not dividing, there is no work possible. The intellect has to divide everything. Even if it is dividing, it has to divide practically. So this is possible, this is not possible. And it has to come to the right conclusion. Vision is not possible, vision is not worst. We can divide. Intellect has the capacity to divide, and then only it can understand. And by the understanding, it has to come to the right conclusion that this I have to do, this I should not do. It comes to the correct conclusion, then it is always safe. There is no problem.
Mm-hmm. That would be a function or a tool of consciousness.
Oh, function.
Another way, express itself through recognizing, naming.
Say that you don't recommend effort on path to liberation.
Past?
For liberation, there is no path. Effort.
No recommended.
Understanding. The effort means we have to understand. The understanding is the effort. You understand your intellect, the nature of your intellect. The very understanding, we can name it as an effort. This understanding we cannot very simply, easily understand. So you have to work. You have to work for this understanding. You work properly. If you examine this and that, and then only you come to a correct conclusion that I have no business here. Then only you can understand. So till you reach the understanding, you have to work. That alone you can understand. That name is as the effort. Regarding to the consciousness, we have no effort because it is waste of energy. Because whenever, for example, some still water is there, if you touch the water with your finger, some waves will form. Then what we have to do to remove the waves? We have to wipe out the waves. If you wipe out, another waves will form. So you have to remove your hand. Waves will dissolve on its own. So in this way, all our consciousness emanating some waves. Moment by moment it creates some waves. And if our intellect tries to clear some waves or establish some waves, it is interference to the natural flow of our consciousness. So we have no work there. If you want to use your intellect, you can use your intellect to the external world. You cannot live in the world without your intellect. So you can use your intellect. But here in the conscious level, your presence is not needed. The presence of the intellect is not necessary. It is unnecessary. So you have to feel, I am unnecessary in the field of consciousness. So you have to come to the understanding, or come to the conclusion. Then whatever happens, whatever feels, is in the conscious level. We have no work. So if you allow everything to go on its own, the regular flow of our consciousness alone will be there.
כאילו החלק של לתקן את מה שקורה. אז יש שם קומנטריז. כן, זה שאומר, זה בסדר, זה לא בסדר. אז זה החלק שלהם, הוא עומד מהצד ויש מעלות. זה אותו, אני רוצה שהוא העליב אותי, אני צריך להגיד לך. זה החלק של האינטלקט. הוא כל הזמן מנסה לתקן. זה שאותו החלק של האינטלקט, משהו, אין לו שום כוח את מה שקורה. אין לו שום כוח. זאת חקירה אישית של כל אחד. אחד צריך לנסות 1000 פעם לתקן, לעשות יוגה 30 שנה, וללכת אין, אז יש פשוט את הזרימה החופשית. שלא מנסה לתקן את מה שקורה. הולך לבד. זה משהו אחר. באינטלקט צריך להגיע לתוך חלק הזאת שצריך. לא יכול לתקן. לא יכול לתקן שום דבר. כל האנרגיה שהוא בזבז בתיקון יכולה ללכת...
When we don't want to use the intellect, it needs effort. Only in flow of consciousness, effort to guide the intellect, of the intellect.
But everything is helpful to the preparatory level. We can use many process, yoga, meditation, everything is helpful. Then only we can have some understanding in these. Because if the intellect says, I have to meditate, then if you know meditation, then only the intellect will be satisfied. So what is meditation? What is the good and bad of meditation? So then only the intellect is understand that it can face anything without meditation. So everything in the preparatory stage, everything is good. There is no problem in it. But in the final level, we have to understand there is no business. In the case of surrender to God, if you place everything in the hands of God, that means we have no responsibility on our own. That means the intellect disown all the responsibility. The disowning all the responsibility happens if it surrenders everything in the hands of God. So the same thing happens. If you surrender yourself in the hands of God, that means you don't have any responsibility of your own. Then you don't have any responsibility of your own. Then you allow everything on its own. You allow your consciousness on its own. So the liberation happens like that. So if somebody may think that I am the absolute reality, I am the supreme consciousness. If you have the faith upon that, then only you will have no power over anything. Then you are the king of the world. Then when you go for alms or when you go for begging, so because you are the king, you are the emperor of the world. So in this way, if you feel you are the great, then you will not go for the begging. So in this way, you disregard everything. Whatever happens, let it happen. You allow everything to go. So in this way, whatever may be, the intellect should not interfere the natural happenings of the conscious flow. So we are not disturbing the liberation. Because liberation, it cannot be created. It may not be created. Liberation is our natural state. Only because of the intellect, we are disturbing the liberation. So if you understand we have no business, we are not disturbing the liberation. Liberation is our natural state.
Explain better.
Good and bad is related to the external world, not to the internal world. Internal world, there is no good, there is no bad. Everything is a happening.
But like you said, liberation.
But you feel it is good. When you find the liberation, the free flow of your consciousness, you can feel it is the highest thing in the world, highest thing of mankind. Then only it can be...
You said it's a feeling, good is a feeling.
Good and bad is related to the external world. Psychologically, there is no good or bad. For example, you are walking along a street and somebody is threatening the people on the passerby with a knife. And when you go along this way, you see somebody is threatening everybody through knife. And the person is very gigantic and we cannot control him because he is very dangerous. You look like a dangerous person. So thereby you get afraid of him. You get fear about him. But at the same time, If the person so threatening is only a small child of below 5 years, is having the knife, below 5 years. And if the person is a controllable person, if you shout him with strong words, he will run away. So the person is a controllable one, you may have some response, but the response may be anger. But if the person who cannot be controlled, the response will create fear. The same feeling have a different expression. If it is controllable, it is anger. If it is not controllable, it becomes fear. So basically, there is no difference between the feeling. According to the circumstances, the same consciousness, same feeling have different kind of expression. So there is no good, there is no bad. So it is related to the circumstances. The consciousness expression in itself, there is no good or bad.
Yeah, but there is nice feelings and bad feelings.
So let it be, but don't get involved. If our intellect gets involved in the estimation of good and bad, then it will always try to keep good and always tries to remove bad. Then only you unnecessarily interfere with our consciousness. But do it everything in the external world. You do the good thing. Don't do the bad thing. But as the external world is concerned, you have to take the good thing. You have to live correctly. That is our duty, to deal with the world. But we have no duty to correct our feeling. So, having harmony with the world is the good thing. Then only we can live peacefully. If you waging war with other people, then how can we? Then they will fight against ourselves. So that is not peaceful living is not possible. That is not good.
So there is a notion of what is good.
Outside. Inside? No, outside.
You apply the same principle in the case of surrender. For example, you surrender everything in the hands of God. Then how will you behave? You accept everything, but the external world, you have to do something work. But psychologically, the surrender is actually related to the psychological feeling. If you accept all your psychological feeling, that is the real surrender. Not surrendering, not keeping everything will, you have to lay upon the bed alone and God will look after everything. I have no work, I have to lay down in the bed. That is not the way. But accepting all your psychological feeling, accepting all your conscious expression alone is the real surrender. Not living as God will live, I won't live. That is not the surrender. Logically, if you put everything in the hands of God, in the psychological level, that is the real surrender. And He will solve. Naturally, He will solve. Even though the God will not come our help, our consciousness will have the capacity to solve everything instantaneously and spontaneously. We have no necessity to solve any psychological problem. Intellect is designed to solve the external problem, but not designed to solve the psychological problem.
There is no problem.
Additional problem is?
There inside.
Inside?
There is no problem.
There is no problem.
Inside.
But if it looks like there is some problem, because the intellect says there is some problem psychologically, but actually it is not the problem.
There is no problem.
The interference of the problem itself is the problem.
This is the problem.
This is the problem. If you do not interfere, actually there is no problem.
So, Vaika, did you practice anything?
So practice is to only for the external world.
Yes, but in your case?
In our case, I have gone through many practices for 40 years.
40 years.
40 years. And after that, I have assumed the various techniques, various details of everything.
You think helped it?
Yeah.
Your practice was helpful for you?
Helpful to a certain extent alone, but it will not give you the salvation. But the salvation alone is the goal.
But if it helped you for some practice,
indirectly helps, not directly helps. Now I am 64.
Is surrender?
Surrender?
Okay.
Yes.
Surrender is the same thing. If you
Surrender and cessation.
no, surrender also solve your problem. Surrender also solves the problem, psychological problems.
Only psychology.
Psychological program.
Psychological.
Only.
But real problem is only the psychological level.
Yes.
If you are psychologically free, actually there will be no problem. So the real problem is only the psychological level. Physical problem is not at all a problem. If you are not psychologically affected, physical problem is not at all a problem. If somebody scolds you, you do not feel offended, then it is not at all a problem.
Yes, but even if I'm okay with everything, I don't feel the unity with everything.
Don't feel unity.
Unity, yes.
Unity means the relationship or feeling that everything is one.
Yes.
Feeling everything is
yeah.
one. That is necessary. That if a feeling of everything is feeling of everything is one, it may be some expression in doing some consciousness, some doing of some meditation. You may have the feeling that everything is one.
It's
That
an
is
experience.
That is an experience,
Yes, okay.
passing experience. If the experience is over, you are divided into many. That is a temporary experience.
Okay. So the only thing we have to do is to get the mental quiet.
Really quiet, but the psychological structure will not have any war against itself. The free flow of a consciousness is undisturbed flow of our consciousness is the health state. That is the liberated state. So our mind may function in two ways, only in the liberated way or in the struggling way. If you are trying to shape our psychological field, we are in a struggling way, the mind functioning in a struggling manner. If it is not interfering with the conscious flow of our feeling, our total consciousness became a liberated consciousness or liberated mind. So that is our natural state.
Feelings, anger and everything.
Like upon?
Reflect upon myself. This one person is all the time angry. Another person is so these feelings, they say something different from person to person. The feeling itself is the same feeling.
But we have some vasanas. Vasanas, according to the vasanas, we may have some kind of the expression of feeling, different kind of feeling. But in the course of time, even the vasanas, everything will be changing. Even the quality of the anger, fear, everything will be...
But it doesn't testify or say the way you feel.
But there is no permanency in anything. The total consciousness is the flowing nature. If there is no expression, we cannot feel a consciousness itself. The very consciousness is in the form of unconsciousness. No
self-consciousness.
No self-consciousness. The self is unconscious. Even though self is there, it is unconscious of itself. There is no necessity conscious of itself. What is the necessity conscious of myself? We know only the expression of a consciousness. The expression, all expression comes and goes. That alone we know. Other than the expression, there is no other expression. There is no consciousness. So, it is, this statement, this idea is only related to the yoga practices. In the yoga practices, you have to assume yourself as the self. And you have to concentrate your focus, your attention against the attention. And you have to focus again attention in your consciousness itself. You have to focus your center of consciousness. So this is helpful in the yoga process. And this understanding has nothing to related with the yoga.
There is no private self?
No private self.
No private self.
Private mind is available. Private mind is there. Not private self. Private mind. We have private mind.
Self is unconscious.
Yeah.
Nothing can be unconscious.
So,
consciousness is first.
Consciousness, the very nature of consciousness, we know, we measure everything through expression. When it does not have any expression, we cannot measure it, we cannot feel it. So
I agree, yes.
It may be there, but we cannot feel it. For example,
it doesn't mean that it is.
You have to say like that. You have to use this word like that. Otherwise, we cannot express in a manner, in a correct. We cannot picture it in a correct way. Even though we may find some other word in spite of if the word unconscious is not suitable, we have to find out some other way, some other word. But it is not a consciousness means we feel something, but the real consciousness cannot be felt. If you feel anything,
It's awareness.
the
It's
expression.
awareness. Awareness means same like consciousness for awareness.
Who?
Awareness.
Awareness. Awareness.
Is same for you like consciousness or not?
Eye consciousness means, eye consciousness is also a
No, eye
expression.
consciousness.
Consciousness, there is no difference between the awareness and
consciousness.
But most of the people say awareness is the real consciousness and consciousness is the feeling. So they give the name feeling in the name of consciousness and the name awareness for the real consciousness.
Yes,
So the naming, we are naming something.
Yes.
Actually, the awareness is the basic thing.
Yes.
That cannot be aware, the awareness need not aware itself. That awareness is the basic thing. What the fluctuation, the waverings, the waves in the awareness is known as consciousness. So somebody is like that. But that is only the naming. Instead of, if you remove the word awareness and place it instead of that our consciousness, we can name it as consciousness and conscious expression. But whatever it be, we know only the expression of anything. The basic thing we cannot know.
You are in a samadhi, nirvikalpa samadhi, but it's only awareness.
If even the nirvikalpa samadhi, if you know anything, it is only the expression. It is not the real state. If it is in the real state, it is unconscious, it goes to unconscious level.
Aware. Always aware.
If you aware something, that means some expression is going on there. It is not the real state.
Is not able to look.
Like your eyes. Your eyes can see everything.
No, it's not saying. Awareness is something behind us.
Yes.
What is looking through us.
Yes, but awareness can be aware of everything, but not of itself. Like the knife can cut everything, cannot cut
It's
itself.
not possible.
But it is a different kind of
Awareness
but it is
should
a
be
different
aware
kind
of itself.
No, because it's
said-
not two. It's not two. If
Yes,
it
certainly,
is
yes,
two,
yes.
then you can be aware of something. But if it's one, how can it be aware of itself? The moment it's aware of itself, it's two. Something I am aware of myself.
Yes, but
It's two.
then what is happening?
Some
When you are not aware. You are not aware.
So we create some expression. Only because some expression alone, we know only the waves. We cannot know beyond the waves.
No, but there is something. Is some moment in your life just now when you are not aware, lose awareness?
Lose awareness means the expression. We may not be there without any expression. But
You are without expression. You are still aware.
when there is no expression, there is nothing there.
Yes, but you know it. That there is nothing. Know it.
No, when there is no nothing, I know nothing.
There
is nobody to know nothing.
Yeah, but you are aware of yourself.
No.
You are, no.
No, when there is no expression, there is nobody there to know beyond the expression. There is nobody to. So the person who is knowing is also an expression.
Person, okay. Person will leave aside. Person is not there. But awareness is there.
When there is no person, then how can I know anything? When there is no expression, there is nothing, no part of knowing anything.
Yes.
When there is no expression, there is nobody to know anything. There is no process of going. There is no process. When there is some process alone, somebody comes to know something. When there is no process, when there is no waves, there is no expression, there is nobody. Whenever somebody is there to know something.
Yes, I understand there is nobody. I understand this state of consciousness.
What you are is beyond awareness. You don't need awareness in order to be what you are.
No, what I am is awareness.
You don't. Awareness, as you know, it is always dualistic.
No, I did not say.
So let's take deep sleep.
Maharishi said, realized person know that he is realized.
They make a move to know this. They move. Stay
Maharishi said,
no.
a realized person is always aware.
Silent
State of awareness.
It's like
Yes,
always exists.
Permanent awareness.
So it's maybe
So let it take, there is some permanent awareness. So let it, we have to accept, let us accept your words. Some permanent awareness is there. So what is our role? What is our role? Some permanent awareness is there. Then what is our role? The intellect.
That I always know that I am. I am that I am.
So let it be. Let it be. I am. We know I am that I am. And which part? The intellect part or the conscious part?
No intellect part.
So no intellect
It's
part.
only awareness. I am aware.
Our intellect part alone says it can. The intellect part alone can divide something. I know something. I feel something.
Yeah, I understand.
If there is no intellect part, there cannot be any description.
There is no description. Aware.
Just the
Awareness.
feeling.
No, no
aware.
feeling. No feeling. No feeling. It's being.
It's being aware. Being
You
aware.
remember that you was
Welcome back to Tiruvannamalai.
Yeah, okay.
Very nice.
Next month, until next month we'll be here. 25th up to 25th February. I'll be.
25th of February. We're now, so.
You are
I'm
staying
here.
here? Oh, I see. Light? Light means?
Jyoti.
Jodi. Light. The related thing. If you have some meditation, you may feel light or anything. It's related to the yoga process. Energy.
Form of energy.
In the way. But you can use the name energy or anything. That means the expression. The consciousness is also.
This is why I say light and not energy.
Enlightenment means some understanding. We name, for example, we know something. Unless there is light, we cannot know anything. If everything is dark, we cannot distinguish which is one, which is that. Then only we use the word light. So in this way, we use the word enlightenment. Enlightenment means we know the correct details of that. That means we are using the light. Means we understand. That's what.
where the light came.
Hmm?
From where the light came.
Everything is everything is the universal God, reality, Brahm, anything you can say. But it is itself.
The source of everything.
But we know only our limited being. We cannot, that is the base of everything. Real thing is the base. We cannot deny the reality behind ourselves. The reality is there. But it is not expressing itself. Everything is the expression of the reality. Our mind, our consciousness, everything is the expression of reality. But we know only our consciousness, we know only our intellect being, we know only our mind. We know only the expression. In the basic level, we cannot know anything. That is why it is said that the Brahm is not at all an experience. The reality is not at all an experience. Nothing can be experienced. No one can experience the reality. That is the state of the scriptures. Yes, we know we are limited. We are only the limited servant. The limited cannot know the unlimited. But we are nothing but the outcome of the reality. Even though we are the outcome of reality, the little cannot contain the large.
Something small, it's bigger than that.
Maybe in the room, but I cannot contain the room within myself. So our myself is in the consciousness mind. It's a limited one. But in the limited one is rooted in the absolute reality. Absolute reality is the vast. And our consciousness is only the limited expression of the absolute reality.
Awareness or consciousness is only expression of
Reality, Everything is the expression of absolute reality.
Absolute reality is nothingness.
Absolute reality is?
Absolute reality is nothing, nirvana.
That we cannot be defined. What we define is only through our language. But the absolute reality will not have any language.
Yeah.
For itself it has no expression. It expresses through ourselves. It expresses in our body, mind, in
awareness is second. First is absolute reality. Yes?
Absolute reality is the base.
Base. Reality expresses awareness.
Psychological, we can name awareness means we know only our psychological structure. Even if you name it awareness or whatever it be, that is part and parcel of our psychological structure. We know only our psychological structure.
You consciously are conscious reality.
So that is the base. That is the base of everything.
You cannot say that you know. So if you consciously are absolute reality, your nature state, cannot say that you know.
No, I cannot say I am knowing the absolute reality. So because we know only our expression alone. I am only a little part, some expression. I know only I am. This part alone, I only know only the expression of everything, of something. The expression may be the something.
I am is bio. I am is already expression.
I am is already expression.
Then you cannot say I am that I am.
Everything is in the psychological stage. There is no psychological structure. There cannot be any I am. There is no I am, I know him, I am. There is no such thing. Everything is in the psychological structure.
Conscious level.
I am at conscious level.
Yes.
When there is no conscious, then what is the use of there is whatever you know, if you feel anything, then only it has some meaning. If you do not know anything, then it has no meaning.
No, I think in the spirit, conscious spirit.
Yeah. We can presume, the little mind can presume the bigger one, but it is not an experience. We can presume alone. We can presume that I am, because we know our limitations. I cannot for myself come to this universe. I am the product of somebody else, something else. So we can presume something is beyond us. That we can presume. But the real problem is knowing the absolute reality. If you know the limitation of ourselves, solves everything. The knowing of the absolute reality alone will solve the problem. It is impossible.
Can't be the real reality.
No, if the person who is think that he is absolute reality, the intellect alone assumes that I know something. So if the intellect assumes I know something, then only it gives, it did not struggle against anything. That means it comes to a conclusion, because I am satisfied, I know everything, I know myself, I know my reality, then it comes to a conclusion that I need not fight with anybody. So the real salvation is that we solve everything. Because I have no fight with other people. We have fight with my energy flow of our consciousness. So the main thing is that we should not fight with our consciousness flow. Conscious feeling, in what way you may come. If you think that you are the absolute reality, or you put everything in the hands of God and you surrender yourself in the hands of God, thereby you don't struggle with yourself. Don't struggle with your conscious expression. The main thing.
And what about love energy? With the absolute reality? Love energy?
Love energy?
Yeah.
If you are loving energy with some motive,
No, with
you expect something.
some people, enlightened people, speak about love and peace and.
Love means you must lose yourself. When you lose yourself, you become one with the other. That is the real love. So if you claim the something is it must be like that, something must not be like that, then it is not love. Then you are not one with the other thing.
So use intellect, and you also use intellect, but follow construction, imagination of intellect.
Intellect and imagination is same.
Yes. Do you use intellect for living in the world? Or
Yes. Nobody can live in the world without imagination, without intellect. So intellect is the must to live in the world.
Then we use intellect.
Then
you consciously live intellect.
Consciously living.
Yes.
Yeah.
To not by creation of intellect.
Yeah. But the real problem is not in the intellect. If the
Yes,
intellect
yes.
turns against the consciousness,
Yes.
then only the problem comes.
Yes, yes.
If you leave the consciousness alone,
Uh-huh.
if you do not interfere with the conscious flow of a feeling, then the conscious flow is the liberated feeling. So then the liberation is your base. The intellect, that is a tool to live in the world. That is not the main thing. The intellect is not the main thing. The real thing is your consciousness.
Our problem is that we ourselves attached with intellect.
Attached means giving importance.
Giving
Importance
importance,
in what? Giving importance to intellect is not a problem. The importance should not relate to the consciousness. I must be like that. I should not have any good feeling. I must have good feeling. I should not have any bad feeling. Then only you are against your own consciousness. So you may struggle with the world, but don't struggle with yourself. Struggling with the consciousness means the problem. If you want to establish some good feeling within yourself, if you want to remove some bad feeling within yourself, then you are wage war against yourself.
You are only sitting, thoughts are arising in your mind or not? When you are only sitting, the thoughts are arising spontaneously in your mind or not?
Everything is coming and going. I am not struggling within myself. Everything comes and disappears.
Then
comes
you observe.
Then
you observe.
Then
you are observer.
No observation. Observation means I am watching myself to design myself. I must be like that. I should not. Then only I have to observe. So observation presupposes some motive. So no motive is necessary. Some happening is there. No motive.
You observe the
observation takes part. Observation, we cannot live without observation. It is part and parcel of everything. But we are not particular in observation. We are not concentrated. We are not focusing any observation. Observation goes along with everything. Awareness goes along with everything. We need not worry about the observation. Whether we are struggling with ourselves or not, that is the problem. We do not struggle with ourselves. If you accept the free flow of our consciousness.
The bottom is live naturally by my own self.
Live by myself.
Naturally.
Live naturally.
Naturally, for me,
conscious level, consciously we have to live naturally.
Yeah.
But intellectually, we cannot live naturally. We have to think, we have to plan. That is natural living is not possible. Natural living is not good. We have to think, we have to decide.
I said it is important to live naturally.
Then conscious level, natural living alone is possible, but we are unnecessarily disturbing. Our intellect always disturbing the consciousness. Then this must be like that, this must not be that. If we have the good feeling, we are happy to retain that. If we have some bad feeling, we want to be serious enough to remove that. Then only we are struggling with our own consciousness. If you are giving freedom to our consciousness, then naturally that is a natural state.
Is it happiness?
Happiness is a kind of feeling. That means whatever, that means the flow alone must be there. Flowing alone must be there. Happiness may come, sorrow may come, tension may come, whatever may come. There is no problem.
Also
because to meet with the situation, some things may come.
Also in you?
Everything in myself itself. But it will not take any root. Because everything is flowing, it will not have any weight. But if you are struggling and you are having a well around the flow, not creating any well around the flow, the natural flow will not create any problem.
Meditation is also struggling?
Meditation in the preparatory stage, it is okay. So meditation means setting a mind in a fixed pattern. It is we have to set the mind. Meditation is setting the mind. But the liberation of mind is different.
Repeat your words, your sentence.
Meditation is setting up of your mind. You have to set the mind. Set the mind.
Set the mind.
Set the mind. But set the mind is different from the liberation of mind. That is manolaya. Manolaya is meditation. This is manonasa. The freedom is manonasa. Meditation is manolaya. That is, for the time being, for anything you have to practice meditation. But afterwards you can use your meditation for the external world. For the external world you have to meditate, you have to set your mind to deal with some thing. For example, if you do a work, you have to do it through meditation. Only through meditation alone you can attend a work. So manolaya is necessary. Your meditation is necessary to attend a work. But here psychologically, with regarding to your consciousness, if you set your mind, this must be like that, this must be like that, this is disturbance to the natural flow. So meditation is the external one. Internally, meditation is not, it is selfless.
The mind is so beautiful. At some point when we come to recognize that the mind is just mind, it's phenomena, rather than struggling with it and trying to do all these things, enjoy it for what it is. Just because in the world we're always taught to learn something. Then when we join the so-called spiritual path, again we think that there's something to know. Now it's called the Absolute, or something like that. And then we're still trying to know something, and there's nothing to know. Whatever is known is just more appearance, and the happiness and the freedom is not in anything known, and there's nothing to know. Till the mind goes, okay, well, what should I know and not know, and how do you cannot comprehend it, it's just phenomenal. That's fine, it's beautiful, but there's no meaning to it. Relax and they go, wow, okay. The idea of knowing something, more misinformation. Thoughts, no thoughts, whatever. You have to be apart from whatever you know. And if you have to make yourself apart, because naturally we're not apart from anything, we just are what is. So we have to make ourselves apart to know something. But somebody must have told us that we're supposed to know.
Natural state, innocent state.
Yes. Yes.
So it's peaceful.
Yeah. Just like we heard that we're supposed to know something. It's part of the ignorance that has no truth. It's just misinformation. We just really hear that there's nothing to know, nothing to know. Whatever we can know, it's not, because actually we just take that in. There's a period when we kind of watch continue, because it has energy and momentum to it. Then, to survive a little longer, we start to witness it, observe it. I'm not going to observe it. No, there's nothing to observe. That's going to happen anyway. It's just going to die out. But if you make a new behavior, a new practice out of observing and witnessing, you're keeping it alive. There's nothing to observe and witness. That's going to continue until it... Funniest thing. It's so simple. And I'm not saying that this is truth and I know something. I'm just sharing what has come naturally for me. And
when you say that there is nothing to know, it's relax.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And the mind comes in a little later and go, well, maybe I should know something. okay, that's great. On the other hand, that which we cannot know is everything. So actually we already know the Absolute. This is the Absolute. Not like this is not the Absolute, because where's the Absolute? Absolutely here. So then we already know the Absolute. This is everything. Something very special. Most uncovered. Obviously, it's the most uncovered thing. It's the most, somehow, we're thinking it's somehow covered from me.
Reality is actually uncovered thing. But we know everything only through covering. By covering alone, we know something. But reality is uncovered. We cannot cover the reality. We know everything through covering something. In the covering, within the bondage, within the limitation, we know something. Reality is open. It cannot be covered.
Possible to notice the
then it is behind you. Then you are so above this reality. Then only if you above the reality, then only you can know the reality. You have to be superior above the reality. can contain what is possible to contain, cannot contain the beyond. If you say you have contained the beyond, it cannot be the beyond.
And then when you are in this stream of conscious knowing, the bliss.
Everything is there. You can feel something, some great thing.
This bliss is always.
Let it be. Some great feeling. Let it be. What is the role of our intellect is that don't disturb it. Don't disturb it to plant it forever. Don't disturb it to remove it any.
For me, that pays attention is it. Noticing it, the breeze or the holy silence is nothing thought that notices. So we say, okay, thinking about girls or money or study, but this...
Don't pay attention, this mind rising more and more.
I mean, the idea is that we can't cover it. As Bagavath said, you can't cover it. But a popular way of seemingly covering it, words absolute and silence. So seeming cover, by calling it these great things.
Everything.
Can't believe everything. You keep everything alive. Keep everything alive by whatever you.
Effortless, big effort. Yoga said that I pay attention. I pay attention to this breeze.
Pay attention to the deeper consciousness of yourself. Yeah. That means you are giving some manolaya to that place. So if you giving you entertain the manolaya, it will give some energy, some good feeling, and that feeling you may enjoy. But if it is a limited one, it is okay. If the enjoyment goes beyond the limit, it will destroy the body itself, because the body cannot withstand the enjoyment. It will design to have some feeling to a certain extent. If the extent breaks, it will destroy the body itself. So all our feelings, all our enjoyments or anything, some good feeling or bad feeling, whatever it be, it must come and go. That is the natural thing.
Then it is not useful for pay attention to.
The natural thing, there is no, if you do not disturb it, the liberation is there. There is no plus or minus to liberation. You have no business there in the field of liberation. Liberation is a natural state. We cannot plant it, we cannot develop it. We need not pay attention.
That's good. So when I pay attention, I don't know things, because I am involved in mind.
And you're experiencing thought. Same as everything else. It's like, but in the name of holiness, it's not.
It's not present. But if I'm already things, ballistic thing.
Psychology, yeah. Bagavath talks about patient.
I think it is not psychology.
I think anything that has to do with me is psychological structure.
Yes.
So anything that has to do with me